When you got the chance to show a little care, don't hold it back, don't leave it there. There's a moment now, can let it in your soul. Kindness ain't weakness, it's the strongest goal. When it rises up, don't let it pass. It's the kind of thing that's built to last. A simple act, a helping hand, can echo louder than you planned. Oh, we're running out of time, can't you see? What you give away comes back eventually. Life's too short to be anything but kind. Open up your heart, don't live blind. Love a little deeper, take your time. Yeah, the world needs more of your light to shine. It don't cost a thing, just change your mind. Lift someone up, leave the dark behind. If you're searching for a sign, this is it tonight. Just be kind. When life puts a moment in your hands, don't question it, just understand. There's a reason you're standing there, to give a little love, show you care. It don't take much, no heavy load, just a smile on a dusty road. A word, a touch, a little grace can turn around somebody's day. Yeah, the smallest spark can light the flame. And we're all a part of that same chain. Life's too short to be anything but kind. Open up your heart, don't live blind. Love a little deeper, take your time. Yeah, the world needs more of your light to shine. It don't cost a thing, just change your mind. Lift someone up, leave the dark behind. If you're searching for a sign, this is it tonight. Just be kind. If you got nothing good to say, just let it go. Let your actions speak what your heart knows. There's a power in the quiet, in the way you show that love's the only truth that grows. Yeah, the energy you give is what you'll find comes back around in its own sweet time. So stand up tall, let your spirit shine. Leave a little kindness behind. Life's too short to be anything but kind. Raise your voice, let it all unwind. Be the reason someone feels alright. Be the spark in the darkest night. It don't take strength to tear things down, but it takes a soul to turn it around. So if you're breathing here and now, this is your time. Just be kind. One day at a time. Let it
Hello,
flow.
friends. Just be kind. Welcome, friends. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome, Erica. Thank you for being with us.
Yeah.
Let me just go back to the comments. Thank you, Jackie, for being here. Kenny, brother, welcome. And Christy is in the building, and Tom is here, who created the music. Connect with Brother Tom Coolin if you'd like some beats being made. He made the song about kindness. And I just want to thank you so much for sharing that with me and allowing me to share it with the world. Thank you. All righty, friends. Welcome to Connect Impact Hub, where we are on a mission to end homelessness. And today we are welcoming our dear friend, Erica, who I had the pleasure of meeting at the Wellness Summit a couple of months ago. Has it been a couple months ago? Oh my gosh, it's gone by so fast. And I was so impressed by her share. And I asked if she would be if she could please come and share a little bit about her journey so we can all get to know her a little bit better. And I know you're going to fall in love with her as much as I did. Look at her background. I mean, just wait. Erica, I'm going to pass the mic over to you, and please introduce yourself for friends that don't know you, where you're at in the world, and what do you like to do for fun, and your occupation.
Right. Well, I'm Erica, so thank you for inviting me. I too was so thankful that we got to connect at the Virtual Wellness Summit and hopefully continue that. I'm Erica Spring. I am the owner of Spring Services, and I'm a therapist in private practice. I am located just north of Kansas City, Missouri. I'm not originally from here, but I've been here long enough that I've lost most of my accent. And I'm a mom and a wife and a writer. And for fun, I love music. I love music and movement. So like as soon as I heard Tom with the kindness, I was like, okay, we're where we need to be, because I have a collection of band t-shirts that would really show off a lot of different versions of Erica. You know what I mean? I love music.
I love that. And Tom said, you're welcome. I'm so glad he made it. And I also see another dear friend of ours, Linda, who's in the building. Welcome, sister. Great to see you. And, you know, Erica, we have community here. I call them brothers and sisters because I honestly, genuinely, I see them regularly. And so there is that feeling of family. And we create that here at, through these live events and through the chat. And I know sometimes I'm really bad about chat, so I do apologize, but I'm really glad. I'm really trying today. So let's hope the tech is on my side today. And then I believe you have a hi here from Christy. Christy says, hi, Erica, and she sends a purple heart your way.
So sweet.
We love hearts. All right, Erica, so let's jump right in. So let's talk about, I don't know did you say where you were from? What you're in, you did.
Yeah, just a suburb of Kansas City on the Missouri side.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's talk about your journey with your therapy. Yeah, because I know that you come across, we connected on supporting folks, and we're also all, people that work in this field, we need support. So could you share a little bit how you got in the field?
It was all accidental. It was completely accident. I would love to tell you that there was some, beautiful, inspirational. Yeah, there's not. So I think it's important to know that most helpers are not here because we necessarily came from amazing situations. When we think about a lot of people who go into helping fields, certainly people who are willing to put themselves in 6 figures worth of student loan debt to make a job that will never pay that. We're clearly looking for something a lot different than the average worker. So my original degree was actually in broadcast journalism. I have a degree from University of Missouri Columbia, which happens to be one of the world's first and best journalism schools. And I was an NPR reporter Anybody that knows anything about journalism, real journalism, knows that, well, you surely don't make much money in that either. But I've always been a writer, and I figured that having an understanding of words would lend itself to anything that I wanted to do. And so my original idea, because my family said I could argue with anyone about anything, was to actually be a lawyer. And in particular, I wanted to be a pro bono lawyer. I wanted to help women and children. I wanted to be a part of things that were going to change the world. Now, here's what I learned along that journey. I mentioned I'm not from here. So I was born in Natchez, Mississippi. I was born at a Confederate Memorial Hospital. And I say that part out loud because I knew right away I was probably not born where I was supposed to be born. I'm sure other people would understand this to some degree, but the culture that I came from, while I'm not necessarily ashamed of it, I don't agree with it. Deep misogyny, obviously deep racism, and we came from deep poverty. Due to my dad's job, we moved around a considerable amount. I went to 30 schools before 6th grade. And I eventually found out that most of that time between I was born and being in 6th grade, we were in various states of being unhoused. I remember going to school in California, of all places, Bakersfield, California, and it was an immigrant county. And I speak real slow at this point because I'm still from Louisiana, and that's what I sounded like. There was a major cultural divide. There was a major language divide, but I understood that we were all about the same, which was poor. But I remember learning a phrase called gypsy, as well as a phrase of being like somebody who just moves around a lot, and this concept of not having a stable house. And I just remember coming home to my parents and saying, I know what we are. And they were like, what? And I'm like, well, we're gypsies. And they kind of got a laugh, but we lived in camping campgrounds, like where most people would like vacation. We lived there in a 32-foot trailer. My house was on wheels for most of my early life. And if we didn't have a place that had a trailer hood, well, we lived in hotels. And so it took me until moving to Missouri full time before I understood that other people didn't move, and that what we were not was some kind of secret society of gypsies that just didn't, fit in anywhere, but rather we were unhoused and underhoused. So fast forward to after college, not coming from any lineage, I had no idea how the real world worked. I knew that I could get into places based on enough hard work, and I was a really good student, and I was willing to do the work. I did not understand the concept of the good old boys club. I thought your merit, your goodness, your ability to show up was enough. And so I took the LSAT, I did my applications. The place that I ran into trouble is, where on earth do you come from? Who's your dad? My dad's nobody. What's your lineage? What part of the school is named after them? So that's when I began to really, really pay attention that this whole system is kind of rigged. You could show up as your best self and do the best work with the best people, but if you didn't have that best backbone and that best name, you're not going to do much. So I quickly...
Erica, I have a quick question for you before you jump into, because I have a question. I'm still in Bakersfield.
Were we in school together? Because I was upset one day because y'all had taquitos for lunch, and I had never seen a taquito in my life, and I was scared. But I love taquitos now. Bakersfield opened me up, okay?
Yeah, you know, I actually did not have the pleasure of living there, but it's so interesting because after my parents separated, my father did end up in Bakersfield. And there was nothing there but a train that I remember. There was not a lot going on there, but it was a lot of Hispanic people there. And so you being in that atmosphere, like, did you feel welcome or did you ever feel like an outsider?
No, I never really felt welcome, not because anybody did anything. It was always temporary. You have to understand there were times that we may live in a place for 2 weeks. So I was
Mhm.
never heavily invested emotionally because I always knew that I would leave. Because of the way that I talked, it was assumed at all times that I was actually not very intelligent. And so no matter where I went, my mom would keep a record of our school, school records so we could enroll in schools wherever we needed to. And I was designated as gifted like at 4 years of age. And so every school I had to go to, I had to retest to prove myself because, this is before computer programs and all kinds of things. And I just remember in Bakersfield taking a series of tests and they came out and basically told my parents that they didn't have anything to do with they didn't have anything for me. I had art, whatever grade it was, I want to say first, second grade, I had already maxed out everything. And so most of anytime I went to any kind of school, no, I didn't necessarily feel welcome, but the feeling was mutual. And after doing said requisite testing for placement, I was usually placed in an isolated classroom to learn on my own pace.
Oh my. So, okay, this makes sense. Just I'm following you. It's so interesting to hear this from your viewpoint, you know, um, because I always heard growing up, oh, us, like I'm Hispanic, so like we always have it hard, and we always thought other cultures had it easier. I mean, that's from my point of view, just me, okay? But
Absolutely. Yeah,
and it's to hear you speak about this. It's an eye opener, not only for me, but I'm sure for many that are listening as well. So I thank you, Erica, for sharing your story, but also,
absolutely.
now living, being mobile is like the thing now, but back then it wasn't. We,
It's not really the thing for children. It's not. If you're trying to educate children, if you're trying to build community, you have to give roots so that they can have wings. So I wouldn't recommend that.
yeah,
Um,
and that's they're doing that now. A lot of
yeah,
homeschooling.
yeah. Yeah, we could go on that for days, but that
Yeah,
no.
that'll be another
I
conversation for another
Yeah,
day.
that'll be another
We
conversation.
do need to have we should have that though. That's actually a really good idea, so keep that in note.
And I mean,
Um,
here's the thing, like even within white people, yes, I know that we're the most privileged and the most protected, and there is poor white trash. Like I straight up will say I come from the trailer hood. My kids think that I lived with Eminem because they're suburban kids. They've never lived in poverty. They have no idea. And so my kids have gone to their school, their all white school, and said, my mom lived in the trailer hood and knows Eminem. And I mean, we just think that it's hilarious. But there is a huge like here's this fun fact when people talk about like programs like Medicaid, food stamps, all of which I've been on and off my entire life for various reasons, poverty, you know.
mhm.
um it's white people. We are the number one purveyors of those programs, and it's assumed that it is other cultures and minorities. It's not. It's white people.
Mm. Now I do see a comment here from Merrill for you. Uh, he
Oh,
says he says yes, Erica. The University of Missouri of Columbia does indeed have a stellar journalism program, and I'm fortunate to have some muso connections who now currently
Mizzou.
work in television news. Sorry,
Yeah.
guys, that's the dyslexia kicks in
No,
sometimes.
no, it's where it's pronounced. No, it looks like it's Mizzo, but it's Mizzou.
Okay, okay. I don't know if you've connected with Meryl, but if you haven't,
Good, yes.
wonderful human being. Charito, welcome, sister. She's here from the Philippines. It's so
Oh,
great to see you. Okay, I'm so sorry, Erica. Okay, so it's interesting because right now it is being promoted on social media, especially on YouTube. I see YouTube a lot. I'm sure on other platforms too, that parents are pulling their kids out of school and homeschooling them, and some of them are taking the road. They're traveling different states. And I actually, as I was watching, I'm like, I wonder how the kids feel about this. They look like they're happy, but they're not creating community. They're moving from place to place. And it kind of reminds me of the military style too.
it was off, but they have each other and they're on base. So I had my sister, and I can only speak to our adventure. It was not a choice. This is what we did because this is the only way that my dad could put food on the table. Um, so it was an adventure. It wasn't a YouTube channel. It wasn't a lifestyle. Um, it was deep poverty. And you go where the work is. He was a welder for natural gas pipelines. And part of that work just means you go where the work is. And oftentimes it's in very, very, I've lived in Death Valley. You want to talk about nothing? There is nothing in Death Valley, but you have to go wherever the work is. And so I think that what you're saying, one, is highly curated. These people have significant amounts of money. They're living quite comfortably. They have curriculum. I attended public school the whole time. Anytime we pulled up, I'm at the nearest public school. And it didn't matter if you were in Cali, Minnesota, wherever, you were just going to go to private or public school because you're poor. But the assumption still is too that somehow all of that sounds really fun. I would, as a therapist, strongly discourage anybody from thinking that that is the definition of fun.
Thank you. Thank you, Erica, for sharing that. Now, I know we're going to move over to the college because I would love to learn about what inspired you to join this field.
Right. So again, I mean, not getting into law school, it was what I had been preparing for this entire journey, and not being able to reach that goal. I pivoted quickly because I knew that I wasn't ready, and I knew I wasn't going to be a journalist. So I enrolled in some courses in psychology and counseling, and I became hooked. So there was no inspiration. There was an awareness that probably because of multiple cultures and experiences, it was very, very easy for me to become a chameleon, and I can talk to anybody about anything in any capacity and feel quite at ease. Like just basically an absolute chameleon. And so the more that I learned, the more that I wanted to learn. And so I would say that it's something that I fell into more than I planned to be into. But once I was there, I had never felt more comfortable.
And in the population that you usually see, is it low income or is it middle class? Is it mixed for you?
So for years, I did 14 years of public service, and I only worked with low income, Medicaid, Medicare, unhoused, underhoused populations. I did that partially because it is a road, a very common road. We call it community mental health, and it's a very common road to licensure. Fun fact, therapists don't graduate with a license or the ability to practice. We actually have to, in addition to having a master's degree, we have to complete 3,000 plus post-clinical supervised hours. And we also have to pass our exams. And so it's very common because if you're going to pay somebody for your supervision, you have to pay their rate. So if you're talking to a therapist, that's $120 an hour to pick their brain. Take that times 3,000. That's a lot of money. So most of us go into community mental health because it provides a free direct line to get your license with the supervision hours needed. I also did it because of public service loan forgiveness, because I wound up in 6 figures worth of debt, all in start to finish.
Oh man. I'm
But
sorry.
I've received, don't be sorry. I worked in the field and garnered all of the experiences that I needed. And
You
when
did.
it was, yeah, 2022, I was fully forgiven of every dollar.
Wow. We need to talk.
Yeah, it was not a bad thing to be under 40 and out of college debt, but
Man,
I put
Erica.
in the hours, and
What a
I was
blessing.
in Kansas City
Wow.
doing in-home work
Yeah.
and meeting with people at homeless shelters, meeting people in all kinds of housing, meeting people in hotels, just like how I had come through, meeting people at some really, really different places that are certainly not the office, certainly not the inpatient out setting, and certainly not some fancy office. My office was my car, and my office was wherever the people are.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh, we have a lot in common. The more you're speaking,
Yeah.
Erica. So, because of what you experienced as a child, how has that supported your work? Because, as a therapist.
So I get told this all the time. You get it. And they don't even need to know anything about me, because obviously I'm not going into therapy sessions saying, hey, here's my bio and here's where I come from. But I think more than anything, especially early in when it was my entry point as a young clinician, that I understood the language. I understood what it was like to be on food stamps and not know what the rest of the month was going to look like. I knew what it was like to go and reapply for Medicaid after Medicaid said that they lost your paperwork. I knew what it was like to come home and there was no utilities on. And so there was no judgment, there was no shame, and there was this piece of not like this, what the typical white woman savior coming in that says, oh, I've got answers, and walks out with an expensive bag. Don't let the makeup fool you. I'm straight hood. Okay. Like when we get down to business, I am very, very normal. Like
That's right.
I was just, this is the body that they done put me in. Okay. But it does not match up with my spirit. And so I think that my childhood prepared me tremendously for being incredibly comfortable with people that I had nothing in common with and did not look like, and they immediately accepted me. So if I have any positive from those experiences, it certainly is that we could quickly dive into the work without people feeling judged or disconnected by this woman who's coming into their house telling them what to do.
I love that. You've been there, and now you sympathize and you use that as a tool to help. And I'm
Absolutely.
sure anyone that you connect with feels that, because I'm feeling it, and our friends in the audience. I see my brother Bill's in the building, and he said straight hood. That's right. And I don't know if you know, uh, I hope I didn't miss anyone else. I know I seen Leanne who came in. My sister Melanie's in. Thank you, friends, for being here. Appreciate you. Yeah, Erica, you said straight up hood. Yeah, that's right.
Listen, I mean, some of those, this is something else that I want to throw in there. When we would be home, which was Louisiana, the schools that I went to in Louisiana, I was the minority. And I remember my friends who were mainly Black and, braiding my hair. And now this is where it was challenging. because of the way that it was in the town where I'm from, it was still very, very separated socially. So I could not have my friends come over to have sleepovers because they were not white. And again, this is how I knew very, very early, like, I don't belong here. Like, the N word was used often. Derogatory remarks about brown people of any shade were made regularly because they did not have this white skin. People in my family would be removed from the family if they had interracial relationships, especially with interracial children. This is the quoting my favorite new clip from the internet. Where I am from is the last breath of the Confederacy. Literally, when I say born at Jefferson Davis Memorial Hospital in Natchez, Mississippi, with the Mississippi River on one side and Sherman's last stand on the other, these people have not forgotten and they never went away. And I needed to get out because I didn't belong down there at all. I didn't see difference. I saw color because you have to. The world is in all different color, but I see spirit. I didn't recall anything in the word when I would be at church about some white person because we all know that they were brown. So I knew very, very, very early I did not belong. But I knew that the Black community especially accepted me in ways that I had never felt before. One of my like biggest influences is this lady named Miss Rose. And I get emotional just still talking about her. My mom would be gone and she would just leave us with Miss Rose. And she taught me so much, girl, so much. And having all of these, like, I just think about it like gumbo, like there was all this seasoning being poured in because as much as they wanted to control that dynamic of being a woman and being white, and holding on to those values that they believed in so much, they were exposing me and my sister to all of this seasoning and then expecting us to stay Wonder Bread white. Are you crazy? So my sister and I actually both attended an HBCU.
What? Okay.
It did not make any sense. Okay.
That's amazing, Erica. Listen to you. You left that environment and you chose a different environment, and it's happiness. It's away from that toxic, that the stress too, that I'm sure you probably carried as a kid. And yeah, I get it. My father was racist, and he probably would not accept my child, and that's okay, but I've never said that out loud, but Erica, you've made this a conversation that we need to hear more of, because it has happened in households and we just don't talk about it. And so how does it affect us kids hearing our parents talk about someone, that it does impact us?
It does. My kids have never heard the things, and that's one of the things that makes me happy. I'm not perfect. I found new creative ways to screw up. We definitely just did it differently, but we were told at like very young ages that if we ever ended up with any other person other than a white person, we would be harmed and we would be cast out. And they backed it up with the Bible. And I love my grandparents. They helped raise me. They were a huge part of my childhood. And to this day, there are cousins that are not allowed because their children are biracial. I have white children. I will say that, not that it matters. But I do feel bad because my children are given much more privilege because their dad's white. But I'm still on an outsider because I'm a hippie, because my husband's a Yankee, and because I never came home. And, I know that, you're religious, and I was raised deeply in the church. I taught vacation Bible school. I was doing all the things. I miss a Wednesday. I didn't miss a Friday. I didn't miss a Sunday. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I don't prescribe to any core religion anymore, partially because of how the Bible was used to institute racism and other. Um, and that's something that, again, I'm an outsider because I don't go to church.
Mhm. Well, okay. And you're doing just fine.
I think we are.
Now, we do have a question for you from our dear Merrill. He would like to know, which HBCU did you and your sister attend, Erica?
We went to Lincoln University in Jefferson City. It is part of the University of Missouri system, and it even has its roots in deep racism. Mizzou was one of the first colleges in this area, and they were mandated to allow Black students in. They refused, and they built Lincoln University to keep it segregated.
Now we have another comment from, bear with me, friends, multitasking, from Linda. She said she homeschooled her 3 kids for 2 years when they were in grade school. They loved it. When they returned to in-person school, they walked 1 year ahead of their classmates. That's impressive. Awesome. Thank you, Linda, for sharing that. There's it's benefits, and I know the homeschooling has changed also now for parents. One of my siblings also just went homeschool too, for different reasons. And also I'm hearing that educators are quitting as well. That's another rise that's coming as well. Thank you. Okay, Erica. So, man, you have shared a lot in this little short time, for us to really get to
We're
know you.
efficient, right?
And okay, so if anyone has any questions for Erica, please, just list them in the comments. Christy did say here, we grow by learning about other cultures.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. That was one of my favorite things about COVID and practicing. I left my office in March of 2020. I had a beautiful office. I had 2 awesome office mates, and I thought I had reached the apex of everyone's career. I had a door with my name on it. And
Fancy.
well, I really thought I had made it. Okay. Never mind the fact that every time somebody had to use the bathroom, you could hear it through my thin walls. So we could be in the right, like somebody's like, my husband's cheating on me, and you'd hear flush, and I'd be like,
Ouch.
Yeah, I got the worst. I got the worst pick of the office spaces. But when I left and I did telehealth, so there were massive shortages with every kind of first responder, and they waived a bunch of the licensure requirements for nurses, doctors, therapists, the like, so that we could help on demand in areas. So in that time frame, I would say all the time that I was traveling the world and I never left my basement. But I was able in that time to connect with clientele that were in Qatar, in Saudi Arabia, in Germany, in the UK, in Australia, in Canada, of course, all the states. And it did awaken that piece of me that was always enamored with other, not even like a certain kind, just other. I know what I am. I am absolutely motivated by other. They made so many different versions. I feel like there's not enough time to understand all of the others. And so I do miss that. By the way, they've made all of the invisible lines come back, and now I can't practice outside of Missouri, and that's not fun.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know it's high in demand here in California right now. We need therapists desperately.
I
Yeah.
know, and they don't, California never plays fair. I don't know what's going on. And even to cross licensure, it's not friendly.
Mm.
I love
Oh man.
visiting,
And
but practicing has a lot of barriers.
and it's probably also why we have so many unhoused folks out here.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
because we have the highest number in the country. And we don't have enough mental health specialists. So I appreciate you bringing that up, Erica.
Well, and I think something that's very, very important is most of us are one paycheck from being in the same situation, especially in
Mhm.
2026. You are one injury, one illness, one catastrophe from being just like those people. Those people are you. They are me. When we're coming up in our licensure process, if I would not have been married with my husband having dual income and actually having benefits, I would have been qualifying for the same exact services that I was helping people achieve. And that is indefensible. How can you have a master's degree? Not that an education insulates anybody from anything, but if you're willing to work and you are working, how can you still not have a fair and reasonable wage? So not only is there a shortage, but we literally couldn't go live in California because we won't make enough money to live. I am
You know,
stuck in Missouri financially for a lot of reasons because the Midwest remains the cheapest for raising a family.
yeah. I did recently learn that there are 6 states in the US that offer social disability benefits. Um, and what I found, because I'm supporting different people in different states, is that they don't qualify for Medicaid. So in California, here I thought, that you automatically qualify if you are below poverty level. That's not the case. Even if you have a medical condition, you have to prove your case. And it's just, I'm really saddened, to be honest with you, Erica, because we have a lot of folks that I consistently see posting and sharing that they need help, they need medical, they can't seek mental health support. They don't know about NAMI, they don't know about 988, they don't know about these services. And that's where we come in, and we have the knowledge where we need to share.
That's right. And, we we know that there's a major reckoning coming in mental health. There's a push for AI and, in every sector. And I think it's dangerous in a lot of ways, but I think we've known for a long time, and this was what I covered in the presentation at the Wellness Summit with my friend Heather, who's a social worker on the Kansas side. She served just as long as I did in the field. And it's basically the cost of caring is so tremendous, whether it's our student loan debt, the impact on our spirits, the impact on our bodies. We experience things, you've seen things, I've seen and heard things directly that you cannot wash off in the shower. Most recent data shows that we might invest 6 figures into our education, upwards of 6 to 7 years of formal education, continuing education for the duration of our careers, leaving us with an average career of 12 years. There are football players with longer careers, like punters that never get hit, kickers, field goal kickers. They can go for 30 years in the NFL. We're well trained. We have put in the years, but we will burn out very, very quickly because there is no one holding us up. There is zero places offering us help. So who
Absolutely.
helps the helper has become a huge, huge theme for me, because it's assumed that if you ever make it to this point, you have the license, you carry the license, you exist, you have a practice, that you must be okay. No, not even kind of. We are about 4 times more likely to commit suicide, and we don't even know the data on mental health, because when you license yourself with the state, you can't have any substance abuse problems. You can't have any mental health problems. And by God, if you've ever been inpatient, no, you're not going to get that privilege. And so, and when you think about the lunacy of that, um, who hasn't had an episode of grief, who hasn't had an episode of anxiety, who perhaps hasn't struggled with an addiction of some kind, but we are supposed to be somehow nothing like anybody else and completely involved in all of the things that would make anybody else want to go get a drink somewhere, right? So I say all of that because when I look at unhoused populations, when I work with them, I have never felt much distance. I know that on the other side, that must feel like a chasm because I have my house, I have my vehicle, but I have an awareness of the system that lacks underneath there and just how quick it can happen. That's why the concept of other has been so powerful in this regime right here. People have really bought into the concept that they have more in common with a billionaire than they do the guy up the street that's asking for help.
Yeah, you also, as you were sharing, we also look at, as professionals in our fields, asking for help. The judgment part, we're already judging ourselves, but to have a provider that we've maybe had a relationship with, then to come in as a patient, that we don't speak about. That's another area that we don't talk about, and why we sometimes will stay to ourselves because we don't want people judging us.
No. It can literally become dangerous. There was a woman in Kansas who openly admitted that she had bipolar 1 and she had an episode that required assistance. She lost her license. She lost her license for getting help and telling the truth.
So
she posed no threat to anybody, just so we're clear too. I mean, there are times that we pull the license because they're posing threat, their threat to self, their threat to others, they're doing bad, illegal, unethical things. This was just a woman just like me and you who had her genetics used against her and now can no longer do her livelihood.
So that question, when you apply for an for a job, and it asks, how honest are we when we answer that question?
HR is not your friend. Don't ever be honest. There's a lot of times to tell the truth to Jesus. He already knows what you done. Tell your truth to your therapist because she ain't gonna judge you if she's good. Outside of that, I'm not sure the last time that the truth has helped anybody financially, in a situation like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's,
people are given mixed messages. Oh, come to us if you have help or if you need help. Having been in one of those situations early on in my career and going to my supervisor and saying, like, look, I'm in a really, really, really bad situation and environment in a domestic situation. And she just put her hand up and said, I need you to stop right there, because if I hear anything else, I may have to make a hotline.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, on average, we're also not very well supported. I have no sick leave, I have no PTO, I have no vacation, I have no 401k, I have no benefits. And what we normally think about with people in this is compassion, fatigue, caregiver, burnout, which are very real. But the more significant as a trauma therapist include vicarious trauma. So even though we are not there when the bad thing happens, when we hear about the bad thing happening over and over again from various humans, the body and the mind do not know the difference between observing someone in pain, and especially if you're highly empathic, you absorb that pain. Part of what people are coming to seek my services for is a highly regulated nervous system. I run towards the fire. I don't look away. That takes a toll physically to stay that regulated and that grounded while watching or observing or connecting with someone in profound pain. We also know that there's moral injury. So one of the most difficult things in my early years was working really, really hard with a family entrenched in deep poverty, being unhoused, getting them to Section 8, getting them that voucher, getting that mom that job on voc rehab, getting those kids back in school, getting everything in order, only to then immediately have them removed from every resource that was holding them together, just to give them a little bit of momentum, right? So knowing that as soon as they got better, they were going to lose their benefits constantly put us at risk of moral injury, because you have to kind of tell people, take it easy. Don't push yourself all the way, because you're going to lose your support. That's a massive moral injury. How do you tell somebody something like that? Or hotline. This one is something that we deal with a lot with children. All right. Children get abused every day. Missouri is one of the worst states in the union for child abuse and child neglect. And sometimes we know full well that there's nothing that's going to happen. But we know as soon as we make that hotline, that child is in immediate danger, because now somebody knows. So do you make the phone call?
Then that's like such a stress level for that person that knows and that can't speak up, because now I get it.
Yeah, we're doing a fine dance with a system that doesn't even like the people that it supports.
Yeah. As you were sharing, I was also thinking about, as they're asking for help, the people on the other end can also be causing trauma, because I've seen scenarios of people being judgmental with the way they're asking the questions, like as if we're not dealing with a human being here, and like they've never maybe have had any adversities. And I tell you, it's difficult to be on a call and listening the way anyone that works in the field of nonprofit or organizations that give back, if you're in a position of doing that, please be kind, and they probably get yelled at, because I hear that often. They get yelled at and whatever, but they take it out on the wrong people.
Be regulated. Yes, you should be regulated. That is part of your job. And if you can't regulate, then you probably ought not do that job. One of the things that I really appreciated about the place that I had contract with for a long time in community mental health, that ran 3 counties on a shoestring budget, was part of their voc rehab, vocational rehabilitation for those not involved, they were one of the number 1 employers then of the people completing the program. We love success stories about people who had come in seeking case management, food supports, housing supports, education supports, all the supports, psych supports, therapy supports, and they used every bit of that system, came out the other side, and then they were the ones that were answering that phone. They were the psychiatrist assistant and scheduler. They were the person that was working at the front office. And so I think that the way that our community handles a lot of that is actually brilliant.
I really like that. The support level.
We also have peer mentors. We have a peer mentor program where if you've been a consumer of community mental health, if you've been a consumer of Medicaid, and you've made it out to the other side, you can take a class through the Department of Mental Health in Missouri, and you can actually get reimbursed for showing other peers who are just starting out how to rise above in the system that we've got.
Wow. And this is only in the state of Missouri.
And as much as I know there could be other similar states with similar programs, I can only speak to the one that's in my backyard. And yes, we have, I've had several clients actually that have gone on to become peer mentors, because they've reached a part in their recovery that they can now give back. And who better to, again, lead the way than the person that's been there literally.
Yeah. I'm always impressed with when organizations hire folks who have been unhoused and they put them to be, case managers, supporting other members. It's such a beautiful thing to watch because
Yes,
they're confident. They're now passing on their knowledge, their skills to the other person. Oh, it's so
exactly.
beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Erica. That's actually
Yes.
really nice. Now I know we're getting close to time here.
Yes, ma'am.
Before we get going, do you have anything that you'd like to share as far as like who you'd like to connect with? What are you open for in the future or in like near future, like or today? Um, are you open to connecting with anyone else who may have podcasts or collaborating on like co-hosting an event? Um,
Oh, yeah. I'm open to lots of things. I mean, I think that that's been one of the biggest challenges of my life is I feel like there's not enough time to do all the things that I really want to do. Um, you know, when we had spoken privately getting ready for this, I've had this idea for some time now for a not-for-profit to help serve clinicians like myself who may need respite, who may need support. So anybody in the not-for-profit sector, definitely holler at me. I love speaking. I know you can tell because I can talk a blue streak about anything to anybody at any time on demand. But I do have my own co-host. It's actually my friend's podcast, but we have a podcast together. It's on YouTube. It's streaming on Spotify as well. And we also have a video form of it on YouTube, and it's called Borrow Some Besties. We're both licensed therapists, but we're not your licensed therapists. And basically, once a week, my best friend and I get together and just do bestie things. The meaning and purpose of that podcast is to provide social support for people who may feel lonely and isolated, but are not ready to be either perceived or be in person, or maybe through disabilities or various issues that they're not able to go out and have this big circle of friends. So we bring our friendship to you to share with us and join us. So, and then of course, hey, if you're in Missouri and you need a really, really amazing therapy experience, I'm your girl. I've got openings right now. So holler at me. Come do therapy with Erica. Like, we lay it down over here. I think that you understand that what you're going to be getting is a solid, real experience. No, nothing watered down, nothing vanilla here.
Erica, how can folks get in contact with you?
I need to get better at that part, Martha. I got to figure out how to sell,
Okay.
sell, sell.
Well, okay.
I,
So
I'm on
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. Erica Spring. I'm on LinkedIn. Psychology Today. That's the way that a lot of people see us. I do have my own website, but it's in the middle of being overhauled, so I'm not even going to discuss that. But I'm very active on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn community. I love what we're building here. We met each other through Dr. Tanya and Damien. We see Christy here. We see,
Jackie was here. I
Jackie's
don't know if she's
here.
still here. Yep.
So we're onto something. So let's keep feeding each other too.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Well, Erica, I want to thank you so much for saying yes to me
Thank
and
you.
for being vulnerable and sharing your story. And I definitely want to co-host with you some other event. So we will have something in the near future. And then if anyone else has any difficulties connecting or locating Erica, send me a message and I'll be happy to make that connection.
Absolutely.
With that,
Thank you, Martha.
thank you so much. And thank you to all the friends who joined us. I'm just going to put us back in the back room and I'll play a little bit of music and then we'll head on out. Thank you so much, everyone. And again, thank you to
Bye, guys.
for sharing the beautiful music. Thank you so much, Erica.
To every heart, to every soul, just be kind. Yeah, just be kind.